Imagine for a second that the human body is a software program. For thousands of years, we've been trying to fix bugs in the code by essentially banging on the computer case using herbal remedies, rudimentary surgery, or broad-spectrum drugs that affect the whole system just to target one little glitch. But what if we could actually open the command line? What if we could scroll down to line 4000 of your DNA, find the typo causing a disease, and just backspace and retype it?
It sounds like science fiction, doesn't it? Like something out of a cyberpunk novel. But that is effectively where we are right now. We aren't just reading the book of life anymore. We picked up the pen. We are starting to write.
And that's exactly why we're here today. We are looking at the explosion of biotechnology trends that are fundamentally shifting how we view medicine, food, and even the materials we wear. But I have to ask, when you say we picked up the pen, that's a heavy statement. It implies a level of control that feels almost dangerous. Are we really there yet, or is this just hype?
It's a mix of both, but the reality is catching up to the hype faster than most people realize. Look at the last decade. We went from spending billions and taking 13 years to sequence a single human genome to doing it for a few $100 in a day. That speed changed everything. But the real turning point, the pen I mentioned, is gene editing, specifically CRISPR.
Right, CRISPR. It's the buzzword everyone throws around at dinner parties to sound smart. But let's strip away the jargon. Is it really as simple as cut and paste?
In concept, yes. In practice, it's getting there. Think of CRISPR as a molecular GPS system paired with a pair of scissors. You give it a coordinate in the DNA, it goes there, cuts the strand, and then the cell's natural repair mechanisms kick in to glue it back together, often fixing the error in the process. But the trend now isn't just about cutting. The new wave, what we call CRISPR-2 or prime editing, is more like a word processor. It doesn't just cut. It can swap letters, it can rewrite paragraphs. It's becoming incredibly precise.
That precision is key, right? Because the old fear was off-target effects. You try to fix a gene for, say, sickle cell anemia and accidentally delete the gene that suppresses tumors. Oops.
Exactly. Oops is not a word you want to hear in genetic engineering, and that's where the industry is pivoting this year. We are seeing a massive shift from we can do this to we can do this safely. There are therapies now in clinical trials that are actually curing genetic diseases, not treating them, curing them. One shot and the error is gone.
That blows my mind. The idea of a one-and-done treatment for a chronic illness. But let's zoom out a bit. It's not just about editing humans, is it? I've been reading about how biotech is merging with something else entirely, artificial intelligence.
Yes. The marriage of biology and silicon. This is probably the biggest accelerant in the field. You see, biology is messy. It's complex. A single protein can fold in more ways than there are atoms in the universe. Figuring out that structure used to take a PhD student 5 years and an expensive electron microscope.
And now?
Now, AI models like AlphaFold can predict the structure of nearly every protein known to science in seconds.
Seconds?
Seconds. It's like giving a master architect a blueprint and having the building appear instantly. This means drug discovery is moving from a game of trial and error to design and deploy. We can simulate how a drug interacts with a virus on a computer screen before we ever touch a petri dish.
So, we're moving from discovery to design. That feels like a fundamental shift in how we relate to nature. We aren't just finding things, we're engineering them. Which actually brings me to something that I think people encounter more often than they realize: synthetic biology.
Synbio. My favorite topic.
I knew you'd say that, but for the average listener, this sounds like fake biology. What is it actually?
It's not fake, it's redesigned. Think of a yeast cell. Normally, yeast eats sugar and burps out alcohol and carbon dioxide. That's how we get beer and bread. But yeast is just a factory. If you change its code, you can tell it to eat sugar and burp out insulin, or collagen, or spider silk.
Spider silk? You mean we are brewing spider webs in vats like beer?
We are. And we're making leather without cows. There are companies right now growing mushroom mycelium or modifying yeast to produce materials that are molecularly identical to leather, but no animal was ever born, raised, or slaughtered. It's a massive trend called cellular agriculture.
That solves a huge ethical and environmental problem, doesn't it? The fashion industry is a pollution nightmare. If we can grow a handbag in a lab,
It changes the supply chain completely. But it goes beyond fashion. Think about food. Cultivated meat, lab-grown chicken or beef, is moving from science experiment that costs $300,000 a burger to approaching price parity. We are close to a world where eating meat doesn't require killing an animal.
that's a sentence that would have sounded insane 20 years ago. But I have to play devil's advocate here. It all sounds utopian, curing diseases, brewing leather, designing drugs with AI. But what's the catch? Because whenever we mess with complex systems, there's always a catch.
There are plenty. And they aren't just biological, they're societal. The biggest trend I'm watching isn't a technology, it's the bio divide.
The gap between the haves and the have-nots?
Precisely. These gene therapies we talked about, the ones that cure sickle cell or blindness, they currently cost millions of dollars per patient.
Millions. So, if you're rich, you get to rewrite your genetic code. If you're poor, you're stuck with the legacy software.
That's the danger. We risk creating a biological caste system, and it gets thornier when we move from therapy to enhancement. Right now, we all agree that fixing a heart defect in an embryo is good. But what about editing genes to reduce the risk of Alzheimer's? Probably good. What about editing for muscle mass, or height, or intelligence?
We're inching toward the designer baby scenario.
We are. And while the scientific community has drawn a hard red line against editing the germline, that is, changes that get passed down to future generations, that line is based on ethics, not physics. The technology can do it. The question is, will someone break the rules?
And once that bottle is open, you can't put the genie back in. It's terrifying, but also inevitable.
I don't know if it's inevitable, but the pressure will be immense. Imagine you're a parent. You know, there's a technology that could ensure your child never gets cancer, or has a higher IQ, or lives to be 120. Would you say no on principle?
That's a brutal question. I think most people would say, I just want the best for my kid. And that individual desire drives the market.
Exactly, and that's why the regulatory landscape is the other huge trend. Governments are scrambling to figure out how to govern this. How do you regulate an algorithm that designs drugs? How do you regulate a steak grown in a vat? The science is moving faster than the law.
It feels like we're building the plane while we're flying it.
And the plane is breaking the sound barrier.
Let's circle back to something you mentioned earlier, personalization. We talked about AI designing drugs, but how does this affect me, the patient, walking into a doctor's office in 5 years?
In 5 to 10 years, the concept of the annual checkup will look archaic. You won't just get your blood pressure taken. You might have a digital twin.
A digital twin? Like an avatar?
A biological simulation of you, based on your DNA, your microbiome, your blood markers. Doctors could test drugs on your digital twin to see the side effects before you ever swallow a pill.
So no more, try this and see if it works?
That's the goal. We call it N of 1, medicine. Currently, medicine is statistical. We know this drug works for 70% of people. We hope you aren't in the 30%. With personalized biotech, we treat you as a unique data set.
That sounds incredibly efficient, but also, it requires a massive amount of data. I mean, who owns that data? My DNA is the most personal thing I possess.
That is the billion-dollar question. If a biotech company uses your genetic data to discover a cure, do you get a royalty? Or did you just sign away your biological rights in the terms and service agreement?
I never read the terms and service.
Nobody does. And that's a problem. Data privacy in biotech is going to be a massive battleground because, unlike a credit card number, you can't change your DNA if it gets hacked.
That sends a shiver down my spine. You can't change your DNA if it gets hacked. But let's try to pivot to a slightly more optimistic note before we wrap up. Of all these trends, CRISPR, AI, synbio, personalization, what is the one thing that gives you the most hope?
It's the convergence. It's the fact that these aren't isolated silos anymore. The biologist is talking to the coder, who is talking to the ethicist, who is talking to the manufacturer. We are seeing solutions to problems we thought were unsolvable. I'm thinking about climate change.
How does biotech help there?
We are engineering plants that can suck more carbon out of the atmosphere and store it deeper in their roots. We are designing enzymes that eat plastic in the ocean. We are moving away from a petrochemical world to a biological world.
A bioeconomy.
Yes. Moving from an economy based on extraction, digging stuff up and burning it, to an economy based on biology, growing what we need and recycling it back into the system, that is the ultimate promise of this revolution. It's not just about living longer, it's about living smarter with the planet.
That's a beautiful vision. It reframes the whole conversation. It's not just about playing God, it's about partnering with nature, but with a much better translator.
I like that. Partnering with nature. We used to struggle against it, trying to dominate it with brute force. Now we are learning its language. And once you speak the language, you can write poetry.
Or you can write a tragedy, if you aren't careful.
True. The pen is in our hand. The question is, do we have the wisdom to write a good story?
That is the question of our time. We've covered a lot of ground today, from editing genes like a Word doc to growing leather in labs and the looming shadow of the biodivide. It's clear that we are standing on the edge of a new era, the biological century, as some call it.
It absolutely is. And it's going to touch every aspect of our lives. The food on your plate, the clothes on your back, the medicine in your cabinet, and even the future of your children.
It's exciting, and it's terrifying, and it's happening right now. We can't just look away and hope for the best. We have to engage with it.
Stay curious, stay skeptical, and keep watching the code.
We certainly will. Thank you for walking us through this brave new world.
Always a pleasure.
And to everyone listening, think about this. If you could change one thing about your own biology, press that delete key, would you? And more importantly, should you? We'll leave you with that thought. Thanks for listening.